Imagine stepping back, way back, into a world where spiritual paths were still being carved out.
Mm-hmm.
And picture this, a clash, a real dispute over traditions, maybe 100 years old, and this dramatic effort to stick to the original rules.
Yeah, it's not just some dusty old history lesson. It's actually a fascinating look at how fundamental principles get debated, defended,
Mm.
and how that shapes a tradition for, well, millennia.
Exactly. So today, we're really digging into the whole story of a key moment about a century after the Buddha's passing. It's known as the Second Buddhist Council.
That's right. And we have sources that they detail this really fierce disagreement. It centers around 10 specific practices that were causing controversy.
We'll meet the key figures involved, look at the careful process they went through to sort things out.
It gets pretty dramatic. Their confrontations, even, believe it or not, an attempted bribe.
Wow.
All in the name of sticking to what they believed were the Buddha's original teachings.
So our mission here is to guide you through this complex story. We want to highlight the really interesting details and think about why these ancient debates about discipline and, well, integrity still matter.
Let's unpack it.
Okay, so we start in Vesali. This is about a century after the Buddha lived and taught.
Right. And there's this group of monks, bhikkhus, called the Vesālī Vajjiputtaka.
And they're practicing what they call the 10 points dasa vatuni.
And these weren't just, like, tiny tweaks. They were seen by some as chipping away at the strict monastic discipline, sort of blurring lines the Buddha had set down.
It's amazing how these seemingly small things can ignite such a big fire, isn't it?
It really is. Let's look at a couple. There was the salt rule, Siolo Kappa, basically storing salt in a horn to use later.
Which sounds practical, but
But it broke the rule against storing food. Simple as that. Then there was the two-finger rule, Kappa. Eating after the sun was 2 finger widths past noon. Again, challenging the strict timing for meals.
Okay, so precision was key. What else?
There was Gamantara Kapo, eating leftover food if you went to another village.
Ah, like finishing your lunch on the road.
Sort of, yeah. Then Avaso Kapo, holding the Uposatha, that's the observance day, in separate groups, even if they were within the same monastery boundary.
Splitting the community observance.
Potentially, yes. And Anumata Kapo, which was about making a disciplinary decision without everyone present, and then getting their approval later, cutting corners on procedure, essentially.
Right.
Then you had Adhikapo, about following customary or traditional practices. This one was a bit tricky, actually, and got a more nuanced ruling later on.
Okay.
Amarata Kapo, drinking milk after mealtime, but when it was sort of in between milk and curd.
Another food timing thing.
Pretty much.
Huh.
Jalogi Pato, drinking fermented palm juice, but before it turned into proper alcohol.
Testing the limits there.
Definitely. And Adaseka Nisidana, using a sitting mat without a fringe. Maybe seems minor, but it related to specific allowances.
But the real lightning rod, the one that really caused the storm.
Yes. Datharuparajata. Accepting gold and silver. Money.
That's the one. A direct hit on the idea of monastic poverty, right?
Absolutely fundamental. And this is where our protagonist, Yasa Kākandakaputta, enters the scene.
A wandering monk.
Right. He arrives in Vesali and sees these Vajjiputtaka monks collecting money, actual coins, kakpanas, and so on, from lay supporters, supposedly for the Sangha, the community.
And Yasa.
He didn't mince words. He went straight to the lay people and told them, don't give money. He stated very clearly that Sakyaputiya Samayas, Buddha's monks, do not accept gold and silver.
He used specific phrasing.
He did. He called them Nikitamandasiv Apatasacharuparajat, basically, those who've discarded jewels and gold, free from gold and silver. It was a core identity marker.
But the lay people.
Well, they still donated, despite Yasa's warning. So the Vajjiputtakas collected it, divided it up, and then offered Yasa a share.
Seriously. After he just told them not to take it.
Seriously. He, of course, flatly refused, and that's when things escalated.
How so?
They accused him of insulting the lay followers, being disrespectful, and they demanded he perform a formal apology, an act of reconciliation, the Patarjan Kama.
Wow. Turning it back on him, how did he respond?
Very cleverly. He had an escort they provided, and he basically said, look, I'm only being accused because I call something against the Dhamma undhamma and something that is Dhamma. Pure and simple.
And he backed it up.
Oh, yes. He went straight to the Buddha's teachings. He brought up the 4 corruptions, the Upakalesa.
Which are?
An analogy. It compares certain ascetics who are corrupted by things like drinking alcohol, sex, accepting gold and silver, or wrong livelihood. Compares them to the sun or moon being blocked by clouds, mist, smoke, or an eclipse. Obscured.
Powerful image.
Very. He also mentioned the story of Mansiko, a village headman in Rajagaha.
What was that story?
Mansiko stated clearly that Buddhist monks don't accept gold and silver. And Yasa pointed out that the Buddha himself confirmed this.
The Buddha said
that if someone accepts gold and silver, they're also accepting the 5 sense pleasures. And if they do that, they are not a samana, not a Sakyaputtya, not a true follower.
Ooh, strong words.
And he wasn't done. He reminded them of a specific incident with another monk, Ayasama Upananda Sakyaputta, where the Buddha explicitly forbade gold and silver and set down a formal disciplinary rule, a sikkhapada, about it.
So Yasa laid out a comprehensive case based purely on precedent and the Buddha's own words.
Exactly. It really highlights that classic tension, doesn't it? How do established rules hold up against new practices, maybe convenience over time? What strikes you most about his defense?
Just how rooted it is. He's not arguing feelings or opinions. It's all, the teacher said this rule exists. It gives his position such, well, authority. It's clear why this couldn't just be brushed aside.
Absolutely. It set the stage for a major showdown.
So the lay followers in Vesali heard Yasa's arguments.
And they were convinced. They basically said, okay, Yasa's the only real Sakyaputtya monk here, and pledged to support him.
Quite a turnaround, and Yasa.
He then left Vesali. Probably a wise move at that point.
But the Vajjiputtakas weren't just going to let that stand, were they?
Not at all. They realized Yasa had turned the local support against him. So they decided to suspend him, perform the Ukapanya, basically kick him out formally.
So this is serious now. Suspension. What does Yasa do?
This is where it gets almost mythical. The text says Yasa, facing suspension, performed a feat of supernatural power.
Like what?
Rose into the air, flew, and reappeared hundreds of miles away in Kasambi.
Wow. Okay. So safe, but what's his next move?
He doesn't just hide. He sends out urgent messages. Messengers go to Bhikkhus in Pattayaka, which is the west, and Avantidakaputta, the south.
And the message?
It was a call to arms, essentially. Come quickly, venerable ones. Let's deal with this dispute before Undama wins, before Dhamma is pushed aside, before the rule breakers get strong and the rule keepers get weak.
He's rallying the troops.
He really is. He personally went to see Ayasma Samputo Sarvasi, a respected elder living on Aho Ganga Mountain. Samputo agreed immediately.
And others joined.
Yes. 60 bhikkhus from Pattayaka came. The text emphasizes their dedication, forest dwellers, alms gatherers, wearing rag robes, possessing only 3 robes, and all arahants, fully enlightened beings.
So the A-team.
Pretty much. And then 88 more from Avantidakaputta, also described with similar austere practices, and also all arahants.
A formidable group gathering.
Definitely. Now these elders, they looked at the situation and recognized this dispute was, in their words, difficult and thorny. Kakanya kavalanya.
Meaning it was complex and potentially very divisive.
Exactly. So they decided they needed one more key figure, a heavyweight.
Ooh.
Ayasma Revata of Soraya, renowned everywhere for his incredible knowledge of Dhamma and Vinaya, the teachings and the discipline, his wisdom, his meticulousness, just highly respected.
Did they sought him out?
They did. But Revata, well, the text says he had divine hearing, foresaw them coming, and actually tried to avoid getting involved.
Really?
Maybe he sensed how messy it could get. He kept moving from Soraya to Sankasa, then Kankuja, Udumbara, Agapapura, trying to stay ahead of them.
A bit of a chase scene.
It really reads like that. He finally stopped in Sahajati. But the elders were persistent. They tracked him down, followed his trail diligently, and finally caught up with him there.
It does sound like a detective story, doesn't it? What do you make of Revato's initial reluctance? Does it tell us something about how serious this was?
I think it underlines the gravity, absolutely. Someone like Revato, known for wisdom and integrity, wouldn't shy away unless he understood the stakes were incredibly high, the potential for schism was real. It shows this wasn't just a minor disagreement, it threatened the unity of the Sangha.
Okay, so they finally get Revato inside Jati. What happens next? The pre-council maneuvering must have started.
It did. Ayasma Samputo, one of the key elders siding with Yasa, gave Yasa some advice. He said, wait till Revato finishes his sermon, then ask him about each of those 10 points.
Strategic. Let Revato speak first, then pin him down.
Exactly. So Yasa did just that. He went through the list.
And Revato's answers?
For 9 out of the 10 points, Revato's response was unequivocal. Navusokapati. It is not permissible.
So a clear alignment with Yasa. What about the 10th?
That was the Ichechkapo, the one about traditional or customary practices. On that, Revata gave a more nuanced answer. Some are permissible, some are not.
Interesting. So mostly siding with Yasa, but acknowledging some gray areas.
Right, but the overall stance was clear. Now, news travels fast, even then. The Vajjiputtakas, the monks from Vesali who were practicing the 10 points, heard that Yasa was getting this heavyweight support from Revata.
So they had to react.
They did. They decided they needed to try and influence Revata themselves. They gathered a whole load of monastic supplies, bowls, robes, seats, even needle cases, waistbands, water strainer.
Gifts. Lots of gifts.
A significant offering, yes. They traveled to Sajati where Revata was staying.
And offered them to him.
They did, but Revata politely refused. Said he had enough robes, thank you very much.
Okay, so direct approach failed. Plan B.
Plan B involved Revata's attendant, a young bhikkhu named Uttaro, only 20 years ordained. They approached him instead.
Pressuring the assistant.
Seems like it. They urged Uttaro to accept the gifts, saying it would please the donors, implying it was like how the Buddha himself would accept things.
Laying it on thick. Did Uttaro accept?
Under pressure, yes. He accepted one robe.
And then came the catch, I assume.
Precisely. The Vajjiputtakas then told Uttaro, okay, now go deliver a message to Revata for us.
And the message was?
It was blatant manipulation.
Yeah.
They wanted Uttaro to tell Revata that he should declare in the upcoming assembly. Buddhas arise in the East. The Eastern bhikkhus, that's them, the Vajjiputtakas, speak Dhamma. The Western bhikkhus, that's Yasa's side, speak undhamma.
Wow. Just straight up asking him to lie and use his authority to back their side and discredit the opposition.
Exactly. A clear attempt to rig the outcome using Revata's reputation.
Did Uttaro deliver the message?
He did. He relayed it to Revata.
And Revata's reaction?
Immediate and strong rejection. He told Uttaro, you are instructing me in undhamma, and dismissed him on the spot.
Good for Revata.
The Vajjiputtakas were apparently quite upset with Uttaro then, questioning his youth and experience. But their attempt to bribe and manipulate Revata had failed spectacularly.
That whole episode, the attempted bribe, it really makes it human, doesn't it? What does that tell you about just how high the stakes felt in this dispute?
It shows the stakes were immense, right? They weren't just debating rules. They were fighting for legitimacy, for the future soul of the Sangha, you could say. Trying to corrupt a figure like Revata reveals a level of desperation. It shows how even within a spiritual community, power dynamics and influence can lead people down some ethically dubious paths. It's a very real human element in the story.
Okay, so the attempts at backroom deals failed. The stage is set for the formal council.
Right. The Sangha, the whole monastic community involved, gathered officially to settle things. Ayasma Revata made a key proposal right at the start. He suggested holding the council in Vesali, the place where the dispute actually began.
Why there?
His reasoning was strategic. To prevent anyone later claiming the decision wasn't valid because it was made somewhere else, away from the source of the conflict. It ensured legitimacy.
Smart. Did they agree?
Yes, the elders agreed. So they all traveled to Vesali.
And in Vesali, who was the most senior monk present?
An incredible figure named Sabbakāmī. The texts say he was 120 years ordained.
120 years.
An exceptionally long time. And crucially, he was a direct disciple of Ayasma Ananda, the Buddha's own cousin and close attendant.
So a direct link back to the Buddha himself. Immense authority.
Absolutely. His presence was hugely significant.
So what happened when they all convened? Did Revata continue his strategic approach?
He did. He first advised Samputo to go talk to Sabbakāmī privately and sound him out on the 10 points, get his view beforehand.
Laying the groundwork.
Then, when Revata and Sabbakāmī met, they exchanged pleasantries first, talking about their meditation practices. Revata focused on loving kindness, Sabbakāmī on emptiness, both subtly affirming their high spiritual attainment, their arahantship.
Establishing mutual respect and credentials.
Exactly. Then Samputo arrived. There was a bit more strategic talk where they basically confirmed they'd already agreed privately that the Eastern monks, the Vajjiputtakas, were wrong, and the Western monks, Yasa's side, were right. Sabbakāmī confirmed his agreement with this view.
So the key elders were aligned before the main event.
It seems so. Then the full Sangha convened. But according to the texts, it quickly descended into chaos.
How so?
Just endless babbling, the source says. Anagani Chinese. Eva Basani Jayanti, people talking over each other, the meaning getting lost. Just noise.
Not conducive to a clear ruling.
Not at all. So Revata stepped in again. He proposed forming an Obahika,
which is
an arbitration committee, a smaller, select group to examine the issues carefully and bring back a recommendation, a way to cut through the confusion.
Makes sense. Who was chosen?
8 bhikkhus were selected, very carefully balanced. 4 from the eastern side, the Vajjinakas, which included Sabbakāmī himself, Savha, Kujasabita, and Vasabhagamaka.
Okay, representing the Vajjiputtaka viewpoint. Nominally, at least.
And 4 from the western side, the Pathiyakas, Ravato, Samputosakavasi, Yasa Kākandakaputta, the original whistleblower, and Sumana.
The core group challenging the practices, so balanced representation.
Precisely. And they appointed one more younger bhikkhu, Ayita, only 10 years ordained, to handle logistics reciting the Pabimokkha, the monastic code, and arranging the seats for the elders.
So the committee is formed. Where did they deliberate?
They moved to a quieter spot called Vali Karama, described as pleasant and conducive to careful thought.
And the process there?
Very formal. Revata took the role of questioner. He formally asked Sabbakāmī, the most senior member, about each of the 10 disputed points, one by one.
And Sabbakāmī's responses?
For every single point, Sabbakāmī's answer was the same. Navuso kapati. It is not permissible. Unequivocal rejection.
Did he just say no, or did he provide reasons?
This is crucial. He provided specific reasons for each one, citing the exact Vinaya rule that prohibited the practice.
Like chapter and verse.
Exactly. He'd say, this is forbidden based on the rule laid down in Savatthi in the Sutta Vipagga, or in Rajagaha, or in the Kampiyaka Vinaya story, or in Kosambi. He specified the location where the rule was established and the type of offense it entailed, a pasitya, a dukkhaya, and so on.
Wow. So incredibly precise. He tied each controversial practice back to an existing established rule.
Absolutely. Storing salt, storing food, forbidden. Eating afternoon, wrong time, forbidden. Eating leftovers between villages, forbidden. Separate upasafa, a minor offense but still wrong. Partial quorum, minor offense wrong. Drinking unchurned milk, considered leftover food, forbidden. Drinking the not quite alcohol palm juice. Drinking intoxicants, forbidden. Using the Frenchless mat, related to rules about requisites and offense involving cutting.
And the big one, gold and silver.
Clearly prohibited. Kataroparajata, an offense requiring forfeiture of the item and confession. Nisag, 18 he cited.
So a thorough legal dismantling of the 10 points based on existing law.
Precisely. Sabbakāmī summed it up by declaring all 10 practices, with that slight nuance for traditional customs as Uttama Ubinaya Apagarasattu Sazanaya.
Meaning?
Against the Dhamma, against the Vinaya, and departed from the teacher's own teaching. A complete rejection.
How did they formalize the committee's decision?
Revata cast a salaka, which is like a voting stick or a tally marker, for each point that was rejected, making it official.
And the conclusion?
The dispute was formally declared, put down, peaceful, well settled, resolved.
Did they communicate this back to the larger group?
Yes. The committee's rulings, point by point with the justifications, were then repeated in the full assembly of the Sangha, so everyone understood the final decision and the reasoning behind it.
And how many monks were involved in this whole council?
The tradition records a total of 700 bhikkhus participated, which is why this council became known as the Sattasatiti.
The Council of 700.
Exactly.
That formality, the precision, citing specific rules and locations, it really gives you a deep sense of the legal and ethical framework they were working within, doesn't it? Just think about the level of detail needed to settle something so potentially explosive.
It really does. It shows this wasn't about popular opinion or who shouted loudest. It was about meticulously applying the established code. The Vinaya, as they understood it directly from the Buddha's time, it was about preserving the integrity of the foundation.
So what we've really dug into today, it's more than just recounting an old event. It's a deep dive into how a major spiritual tradition defined itself, how it defended its core values right at a crucial juncture.
The Second Buddhist Council, the Sattasatiti, it powerfully highlights just how central the Vinaya, that monastic code, was, and the immense effort involved in preserving what they saw as the Buddha's original teachings against practices that crept in over time.
It really serves as a reminder, doesn't it, that keeping integrity, whether in a group or individually, sometimes means taking a stand, even if it's unpopular. It requires diligence and a return to first principles.
Absolutely. It set a huge precedent for how the tradition would handle internal disputes and maintain its discipline for centuries to come.
And thinking about all this deep dive leaves us with a pretty relevant question, I think. For any tradition, any organization, maybe even for us personally, how do you find that balance?
Balance between what?
Between the need to adapt, for practices to evolve naturally over time, and the really critical task of holding on to foundational principles, the essential spirit of the thing. Where do you draw that line? How do you know when adaptation becomes, well, a departure?